Welcome to this presentation on SoyWater, a decision aid web-based tool for the soybean producer. We thank the USB for funding this webcast presentation on SoyWater. They also offer appreciation to the Nebraska Soybean Board for providing the funding to the Water, Agriculture, and Energy Institute at the University of Nebraska that provided the research team with a project to work on. This project would not have been possible without the in-kind support and assistance of the High Plains Climate Center in providing virtual access to their network of automated weather stations. My name is Jim Specht, Professor of Agronomy. I'll be speaking on several slides, and my colleague, Research Associate in Agronomy, Dr. Jessica Torrion, who will be providing the discussion on some slides. All land plants use water in two ways. The first way is shown at the top of this slide, which is the equation for photosynthesis. You can see that one CO2 molecule is converted to one carbohydrate molecule, and in the process we need two water molecules to do that. And so that returns one water molecule back, so that's pretty efficient. The problem is when soybean leaves or crop leaves have their stomates, these are little pores open in the leaves, to acquire CO2, water molecules escape from that leaf, and since it's a very high humidity inside the leaf and very dry outside, the rate of exchange is about 400 water molecules for every CO2 that comes into the leaf. So plants have to use a lot of water to produce seed. In fact, it's about 164 pounds of water, which is about 20 gallons just to acquire 1 pound of CO2, and there's a lot of carbon they have to acquire. In this particular slide, what you see here is if we take the daily water use by the crop, and this is in the form of evaporation from the soil beneath the canopy and the transpiration from the leaves, this is the water escaping from those stomates, and we look at it during the entire season of soybean development from emergence to maturation, it follows the blue curve shown in that line on a normal basis. You can see it starts out very low and there's relatively few leaves, and it peaks just before the R3 begin pod stage before it declines again. But at that peak, it may be about 0.3 of an inch per day. Now, in any given summer, that can deviate. It can be as high as 0.5 inches per day on a hot, windy, sunny day of low humidity, or it could be as low as 0.15 inches per day on a cloudy, cool, calm day with high humidity. Now, if you take the daily estimates that are shown here and sum them up as you go through the season, you get to the next slide. On this slide, we plot the cumulative water use by the crop on a daily basis. By that, I mean we sum up all the daily crop water use from the prior days up to the date that we're looking at, and you get this red-colored S-shaped curve that really is the cumulative water use during the season. For this crop, you can see that was planted on late April and emerged on May 8th. We predict that about 19.25 inches of water will be needed by that crop to produce a 75 or greater yield in terms of bushels per acre. You can also see the expected rainfall that Mother Nature would deliver historically, shown here by the dashed blue line. In this case, we're only expecting 14.84 inches, and of course it could be more or less than that depending on what Mother Nature does. The other thing you'll see there is that right about soybean reproductive stage R3 is when those two lines cross over. So generally we have enough rain before R3 and it's still the clay loam soil that holds water, but we don't have enough after the R3. So I assembled a research team, one of whom was Jessica Torrion here that will be talking after this slide. We developed this website called SoyWater. There's no user charge or fee for this. All you need is pretty reasonable fast internet access for your home computer. And you can get to the SoyWater website in three ways. First of all, you can type in the website itself, which is kind of cumbersome. Or you can go to the Crop Watch website that UNL puts out, and there's a link to the SoyWater. Or you can just simply Google the words UNL SoyWater, and up will pop the home page. So I'll turn it over to Jessica Torrion.
Thank you, Jim. This slide here is showing you the SoyWater homepage, and after this presentation, you can on your own click at those blue tabs, such as the Overview, Application, Team, and Contact Us for more information about SoyWater if you're interested. However, today we're going to restrict our focus on how a soybean producer can access and use the SoyWater. To do so, the producer user would first click on the yellow highlighted word, Soy Irrigation Tool. Now on this page, I am bringing you to the login page, but if you have not registered for free use of SoyWater, you must first go through that first line to register, and you can click the blue word here to register. If you have already registered, you can just go directly into the box to enter the SoyWater program. Here you see a registration form. The process is pretty simple, and we use it to ensure the confidentiality of the SoyWater information while allowing us to help you later on if you have trouble with SoyWater. To register, we need to know your first and last name, and then your email address, and then we would like to confirm that email address again to make sure that you are not some computer-generated hacker. Then you must choose a brief login name, anything that is easy to remember. Our producers use 2 initials of their name plus 2 easy-to-remember numerical digits, preferably the last 2 digits of your mailing address. And the password would be the 7-digit cell phone number or home phone number, preferably. Be sure to write down on paper the login and password that you choose before you click the red register button. In this page, SoyWater is telling you that the registration is successful if all the inputs in the prior slide were okay. You will receive an email message through your inbox on the 4-digit activation code that is highlighted on a red arrow. Be sure to write that down on a piece of paper and follow the link provided to you on that second line to go through the activation page. On the SoyWater activation page, you merely need to type your login name, password, and the 4-digit number that SoyWater emailed to you. Click on the red Activate button, and you will now free access to SoyWater as long as you wish.
If you're a new user to SoyWater, this will be the first page that you see. If you're a routine user, you'll see a list of fields. So we'll assume that you're a new user here. What you see in this slide is a center pivot somewhere in the center of Nebraska. It's just our default Google map. What we want to do is get to your field on this map so SoyWater will know where your field is with respect to GPS coordinates. So if you'll click at the top part of this slide where it says click here for tips, here are 4 general ways to get close to your field. In that Google search box, you can type in the zip code, 68041 as an example. That gives you a high altitude course map. Generally speaking, one of the best ways to get to your field is to type in the town, state, which gets you a finer map showing, say, the town, in this case, Meade, Nebraska. Use 2-letter abbreviations. If your farm is next to your field, you can type in your rural farm address, in this case, 1249 County Road L, Meade, Nebraska. And, of course, one other way is just to type the county road intersection points in which one of the quadrants has your center pivot or field. Here you can see the user typed in Road 13 and Road U for the town of Strang, Nebraska. This brings up a center pivot field showing in the field there on the northwest side of his farmstead. And so if this is the correct field, what you do then is you just simply move your cursor over to the center of that field and click. That'll put an orange marker there. If you look down, you'll see the GPS coordinates for that site are listed below. Now SoyWater knows where your field is at, and you can click the search button down there that says search for nearest weather station. What you see here then is some information that SoyWater needs. You can see the weather station is selected for you as Clay Center, Nebraska. So what we need here is some more information from you. SoyWater will remember your fields, and you can enter more than one, but it'll keep them only by a numbered name. If you want to know personally what those fields are for a name that's relevant to you, you could type in something like we did here, Northwest Quarter Center Pivot, all abbreviated. The next thing that SoyWater needs to know is their soil water holding capacity, so we need to know the texture type, and we have a menu there that provides a list of 20 fields. But if you don't know what your field has, if you page down on the same page, We provide you this soil texture aid spot after paging down here, and you can see the yellow lines across your field there. And if you look on the left side of the map unit legend box on the right side there, you'll see the acreage of each soil texture type in the field in the frame there. You can see that 97 of the acres there are Crete Silt Loam, number 3824. We don't need to worry about the name Crete. We just want to know the soil type. So silt loam is what you want. So you'll go back to the top of the page and enter silt loam.
The next key input is the initial soil water percentage. We call it here initial soil water field capacity percentage. And in most years, in areas where we have an abundant snow melt and rainfall, the initial soil water FC would be 100%. In some dry years, a user can use soil water percent field capacity to a percentage lower than 100%. The next input here is the starting point, either from planting or emergence. We prefer emergence here in this input, and if you don't know what emergence is, we give it a description right here, and if you click the word emergence, you will see the description of emergence, and emergence is where all the cotyledons are already pulled off away from the soil surface, 50% of that, of your plant. And it seems like a user here picked May 17 as the emergence date. Be sure that if you choose emergence, you have to make sure that that black point is next to the word emergence. The next key input here, and it's the final input, is the variety maturity group, because variety maturity group will determine when is the physiological maturity going to occur, which is called the stage R7. Here is the part of the soil water table that you can see. The upper left side is what the High Plains Regional Climate Center weather station description for you. For this slide, it's Clay Center, and it's about almost 30 miles away from the field. To the right side is your own personal input, including the field name that you've given. Here is the full view of the soil water table. The first column here to the left are dates from the emergence and then up until R8, which is full maturity in soybeans. The next column is the vegetative stage, and then the third column is the reproductive stage. So, for example, SoyWater will actually give you a projection of when these stages are going to occur. For example, in V1, if you click the letter P next to the V1, here is the picture of that V1 stage, and V1 is projected May 28 in this example. And if you want to know what V1 would look like, in the picture it shows that it's the first node stage with a fully developed unifoliate node. If you want to scroll down further, you will see further stages. One of the examples here is if you click that lower P word next to the R3, you would see a description of the R3 stage. The reason why we show R3 stage here is the most important critical stage in soybeans. And R3 is projected by SoyWater to be on July 10, 2012. If you scroll further down ahead and see the physiological maturity, which is R7, SoyWater is also projected it on September 6th, and the picture here is giving you a description of what R7 is. And R7 is very important. It is the physiological maturity where any water that a plant takes does not anymore give additional yield.
Thank you, Jessica. As Jessica showed, we can predict pretty well the vegetative and reproductive stages. What the user wants to know, though, is how much water the crop is using. We do that if you look at the next four columns in this table that start out with a capital W and a capital U. That stands for water use. And you'll see an H or an A, which means historical water use, or A means actual water use. You'll also see a C, which means the summation or cumulative total of the daily water use. So if you look at the first two columns that are labeled WH and WHC, You can look down that column to see what SoyWater is using from historical weather data to predict what the water use will be on a daily basis on each day, and then it'll also accumulate that. So this was what we call a normal crop year, if there ever is such one. In the final two columns labeled WA and WAC, you can see the actual water use that is occurring this year on any date that you log in. And so sometimes the actual water use will be higher than the historical, and sometimes it will be lower. We also accumulate that actual water use to give you a cumulative sum, which is in the right column, so you can see how much more water we might use in some years that are dry, like 2012, or less in other years. Now, on this particular slide, the user still has to enter rainfall for the field, and normally you do that with a rain gauge out in the field. For example, in this particular case, the user got some rainfall on the 20th of June, so he clicks on that blue fonted date that shows in red. He'll be able to enter the rainfall amount, which on the 20th of June was 0.7 inches of rainfall. Farmers tend to refer to that as 70 hundredths. You always have to put in a leading zero before your decimal point. And after you enter that rainfall, you click the Save button, but you have to wait until the screen flickers because that tells you the information has been accepted by the university computers. And when that's done, you can click back to the water use table. So you can see here, after the user clicked on, the table is updated in red. If you go to the R column there, that's the user field rainfall amount, and you can see 70 hundredths is now presented there in red. And over in the column right next to it, RC, which is the cumulative, we've established our first entry. You'll note there's a couple of other R columns there. Those are the historical cumulative amounts for the weather station. And I'll also show you what happened at the weather station. In this case, it was 30 miles away, so all rainfall is local, so you have to measure it on your own field. Now, we just showed you how to enter rainfall amounts. Now we'll look at a slide later in the season for the SoyWater table, and you see we received an additional rainfall of 35 hundredths on the 30th of June. But now we're getting to the point where the rainfall is more or less stopped, and SoyWater will then tell you when next to irrigate. And you have a choice in that in terms of the depletion level to trigger that irrigation. So if you look at the top of this table on the right side where it says choose the SoyWater depletion threshold, that's your irrigation trigger. Right now it's set for 35, which means that when the crop extracts 35% of the total water that's available to it, you want SoyWater to tell you when to irrigate. And by golly, SoyWater does do that. You can see the yellow cell there in the right-hand column at 3.04 on July 4th. SoyWater program is going to help you say you need to irrigate on this day. And so the producer decides that's a good choice, but his center pivot's broken down a little bit, so he has to fix it up. Now, he's going to enter 1.5 inches of irrigation that he put on, and so this time he uses the orange box here when he clicked on the date. He didn't irrigate on the 4th of July, but he irrigated on the 6th because he had to fix his center pivot. And so he'll enter 1.5 there. He'll press the Save button, wait for the flicker, and then he'll go back to the water use table. So you can see on this slide he did irrigate on the 6th of July. He put 1.5 inches. It shows up in the I column there, and right next to it is the I cumulative column. And you can see the yellow highlighting went off when he irrigated, but because the crop is using so much water, SoyWater is telling me he needs to irrigate again on the 9th. He was getting ready to do so, but he got a rainfall event of 0.6 inches that he entered in, so the next time he has to irrigate is actually on the 10th of July. Now, some users say, boy, that's a lot of tabular data to look at. Can I see this in graphic form? And the idea is, yes, you can. Here you can see the three main components. The red line is the cumulative water use, historically, which would be the WUHC column in the table. That's what a soybean crop planted in this field, given your inputs, would use about 18 inches of water during the season. It's been hotter this season, so the dark blue line above that represents the cumulative actual water use to date. So you're using about 19 inches now projected instead of the 18. Now, when you enter water, whether from rainfall or irrigation events, that's summed up in a column called total water, TOTW, in the table. And so you can see the producer's irrigated 4 times here, but he's had some rainfall events that have helped him out. And that light blue line is keeping a nice step upward to match the crop water use on a cumulative basis. One of the hardest things that producers have to do is try to schedule the last irrigation of the season. And SoyWater offers a very nice way of doing this. Around mid-August or so, the user should switch the depletion threshold located above the SoyWater box. You see we've changed it from 35 to 50 here. That means we want a 50% depletion trigger here for an irrigation that's coming up. And so we want to be able to find out the difference between today when we logged on, which is August 23rd, where it says 3.82 inches of depletion, and the date of R7, which is predicted by SoyWater to be on the 6th of September. So the difference there between 4.78 and 3.82 is 96 hundredths. We'll just call it an inch. The producer says, okay, I can apply an inch of water now, and that'll get me all the way to physiological maturity. So that, in fact, is what the producer did here. If you look on the 24th of August data line in the table, you can see he's entered his 1 inch of water that he applied. And now the last column is not yellowing up until the date of R7, which is September 6th. So assuming things go normally for Mother Nature, it's not too hot, not too dry, and normal, what we'll get is the end of transpiration will occur around R7. Soybeans don't need water after that date, and so you manage to let it yellow up and deplete 50% of the water at the same time, so you're not using too much water or too little. Let's take a look at that in the chart in the next slide. So you can see here's a perfect strategy using SoyWater. You put water on with irrigation events that supplemented rainfall events in a stepwise fashion to keep that light blue line very close to the cumulative actual water use line that's dark blue. Obviously, you'll put on just sufficient water at the end to leave the field at a 50% depletion right on the date of R7, which is the pink vertical line. You started the season irrigating on R3, which is the violet vertical line. So all in all, this producer has managed to irrigate soybean field very well, and if all other conditions are good, he should approach a 75 bushel per acre yield. I'll turn it over to Jessica to finish.
This is the final slide of this webcast. Note that the UNL SoyWater is free to use, and I would like to encourage everybody to make use of it, and it's free. And I would like also to reiterate that SoyWater works best for maturity group 1 to 4 varieties grown in the north-central USA that are situated within the High Plains Regional Climate Center. It is very important to note that if you are within the High Plains Regional Climate Center, you would have a free use of the daily solar radiation, temperature, humidity, and wind speed that we use to calculate your daily water use of your soybeans. Now, in behalf of the SoyWater team, Jim and myself would like to thank everyone for listening to the webcast, and we welcome any questions or any suggestions by clicking on the Contact tab there in the SoyWater homepage. Thank you very much.